You've been doing all of these things by yourself. And one thing about eldest daughters, because they don't like receiving, they don't like to ask for help. It feels foreign to them. But at some point in your life, you're going to realize that asking for help is the best decision, the best act of self-love that you can do for yourself.
Hello, and welcome back to the Ambitious Women of Color podcast. I'm your host, Jessica Lynn Rojas. Today, we're talking about the eldest daughter tax, how your childhood role is showing up at work and costing you money. My guest is Miryam Valdivia Romero, a leadership and identity coach who helps eldest daughters break the patterns keeping them overworked and underpaid. We're talking about why you're doing more but earning less, how cultural conditioning impacts your career, and the practical strategies to shift from being a doer to being a leader. If you've always been the responsible one, this episode's for you. Let's get into it. Hi, Miryam. Thank you so much for being on the podcast. I'm so excited to have you here.
Hi, I am really excited. Once you reached out, I was like, oh, let's talk about eldest daughters.
Yes. All right. So let's start with the signature question for the podcast. What is one thing you refuse to sacrifice for your career?
My health. I know my mental health, my physical health, my spiritual health, no overextending, my health for sure. Yeah.
Yes, no, that's such a non-negotiable. I love that. You're a career and leadership coach who specifically works with eldest daughters. So I want, people to get to know a little bit more of you and why you focus especially on eldest daughters.
So yes and no. Eldest daughters is not about the birth order. It's about the role. It's about the role that a woman assumed at an early age. The strong one, the one that carries it all, the one that was responsible for a family or for a community, right?
So it's like an identity, right?
It's an identity because I'm on TikTok a lot and I get a lot of youngest daughters and they're like, I'm not the eldest, but I resonate with everything that you're saying. Yes, because it's the role. Because once the eldest daughter set boundaries and moved away, then the youngest one stepped to the plate and assumed that role. And then the cycle continues, right? So it's about the role that they had in the operating system, what I call their leadership or their relationship operating system that keeps running their lives. So even though they moved away, the programming is still running. Their operating system is still running and is running on every single area of their lives.
Yeah, so I want to go a little bit back now and for people to get to know you because I know that you are a firstborn, first gen. So let's, kind of introduce yourself to everyone here.
Yes. So I'm Miryam Valdivia Romero. You'll find me at Miryam Valdrom everywhere. And I'm a leadership coach and identity coach. This is why we're talking about eldest daughters. I am a firstborn. I'm the eldest daughter of a hardworking Peruvian immigrant family here in the U.S. I came to the States at an early age and all of a sudden became the translator, the project manager, the one that held it all, that carried it all because I was the most competent. I had the most knowledge and I felt that sense of responsibility to support, carry it, be there for the parents, for the siblings. I was 15 and I was a child and nobody explicitly gave me that role. But when you were going to go into cultural identity, right? And cultural conditioning, like familismo, it's the collective. It's the wellness of the collective. So you sacrifice for the family. And I also was raised as a good girl. So good girls are good daughters, are good students, are good workers, are good sisters, so on and so on. And so I realized that I had lived most of my 20s and a little bit of my 30s as the eldest daughter with the eldest daughter programming, even though I moved away, even like I moved across the country to set that physical boundary, but the operating system still followed me and it bled into my relationships. It bled into my career. It bled into how my friendships, my romantic relationships, my friendships, and I didn't realize that I was holding it all. And I had so much anger within me and resentment because there was so much things that I hadn't solved. And I just kept, struggled and keep it pushing because that's how we're raised. We just keep it pushing. You have to be resilient. But all of that anger and resentment didn't go away. It came knocking on my door one day until I couldn't anymore. And then it is through my transformation that I become a leadership coach. Because once I was able to deprogram myself and release all that anger, all that resentment, all that guilt and shame that I was able to make decisions out of sovereignty and not what the world, society, family, culture told me I should do. So that's a little
And
bit of my story.
no, yeah, I love that. And, you naming that you had to do all of this and play this role. Yes, you're the eldest daughter, but also play that identity of taking care of the family. And like you said, it is very common in Latino culture and other cultures as well that it's like you self-sacrifice and do everything for the family. The family comes first. And it is never modeled, at least not that I've ever seen, never modeled that you take care of you and then you can take care of others. So we come with this programming that everything we do has to be for the family and you self-sacrifice. And it's not just women and it's not just like Latinas, but that is like a conditioning, right? That
Mhm.
you self-sacrifice or in Latino culture, Marianismo, that you self-sacrifice for the good of your community, for the good of your family. And then it can lead to like what you said when you realize like I have been doing all this and you have all that resentment and anger and guilt. Can you tell us a little bit more of when you noticed that or you had that realization like all of this is because of my eldest daughter patterns?
Let me make something really clear. I have to acknowledge the system that we
Mhm.
live in and we operate in. And that being said, just because we can't change the system overnight doesn't mean that we have to stay in a victim mentality.
Mhm.
We have the power to transform ourselves and choose how to operate in the system. Okay, I was the common denominator.
Mhm.
I was the one choosing partners that were a different face, but it was pretty much the same person, a different name, a different face, the same person. I
Mhm.
was choosing environments. I was choosing friendships where I was the therapist. I was putting myself there. I
Mhm.
was the problem solver. I was the therapist. I was the one overextending. Even if people asked, I could have said no. I could have
Mhm.
learned how to set boundaries, but no, because as an eldest daughter, I was taught that my value comes from doing, serving others, and they come before I do. So I was the common denominator because you get to teach others how to treat you.
Yeah.
You get to teach others how to work with you. You get to teach others how to love you. But how do you teach when you don't even know how to treat yourself? So that's when it comes to a point that the pain, the struggle, the anger is just so unbearable that you're like, I have to do something because this is the thing. When you're running on cortisol and adrenaline and have so much repressed emotions within you,
Mhm.
is gonna send you an invoice. And it's not about life or death. We all know we're going to die at some point in our lives, but it's like your your body is feeling things and is getting the consequences of your inaction. At 35, your body's feeling like you're 55. Now imagine how you're going to feel at 55. And it's aging,
Mhm.
but it's like illness, chronic illness, pain, chronic pain. So it comes to a point that you have to choose what do you want for the rest of your life.
Yeah, that's so powerful. And like what you said about teaching others, and you were the one seeking those environments because that what was comfortable for you. And it's like the concept of like everyone being mirrors of what's internally in you, right? So we may get frustrated of like, why am I being treated this way? Why am I being taken advantage of? Am I the one taking care of everything? But like you said, you realize that there was something I was doing to put myself in that situation, to like assess that role, to like play that role. And then we get upset and angry and have resentment because we put ourselves in that situation. Like, what are some patterns that you're seeing the eldest daughters like you talked about like things that you were doing, but like with the clients that you see, especially around leadership, like what are some patterns that you see of like them putting themselves in situations, whether it's like roles in their careers or whether it's like how like the dynamic and what they're doing in the workplace and their relationships, like what are some of the things that you're seeing and how is that impacting them?
I'll tell you how the operating system plays at work. The way the same way they can't say no to their families, the same way they can't say no to their boss. The same way that they had to hold it all because they couldn't feel safe growing up is the same way that they have to hold it all at work and control. Fear of delegation. Sometimes it's fear of failure. Sometimes it's fear of being seen as weak because we're strong women. Sometimes is control, because if I don't do it, it won't get done the way it needs to be done, because I am the only one that knows how to deliver quality, how to get stuff done. And it's the same operating system that was running growing up. Another thing is overextending. So there's a difference between being a helper and being a leader. Being a team player and right? So a team player, you collaborate with others. That means if we're in a soccer field, you have your offense, you have your defense, everyone has a role. Everyone has a job to do. You do yours and you communicate and collaborate with others to get a win or score a goal. But when you start operating like the other person and taking on their role and taking on their responsibilities and their workload, that is no longer a team player. You're overextending. You're doing someone else's job. At work, they overextend. They carry more than they can hold on, like in their plate. That's why a lot of eldest daughters are underpaid. They do a 3 people's job and they get paid for 1. But because they feel like they have to do to be valued, to be respected, they just keep doing it. And of course, they're not going to get promoted or
Yeah, it
get
was like they're overlooked
more
because
money.
they're just like, well, they're going to do it, so there's no reason for me to promote her because she's going to do it anyway.
They're
Or I don't
already
need to
doing it.
hire another person because, you know, this person's going to do it. And I've seen it so many times with like when somebody leaves a job and then the company had to hire 2 or 3 more people to do the thing that they were doing because, they like you said, overextending, overdoing, hoping that you're going to get like validated, that you're going to get a sticker of like, you're such a good girl, such a good worker. We value you, but you're doing the job of
We
3
couldn't do it
people.
without you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
They couldn't do it without you because now they're saving a lot of money that they could have been paying another person or paying you more to do. But
Yeah.
yes, like how are that programming or you said operating system plays, you said a little bit like they can't say no with their boss, but how does it play in their entire, like maybe the different relationships they have at work, whether it's like with their direct reports or with their colleagues or with their boss, like how is that eldest daughter pattern really on a day to day? Like, how does that look like?
So for teams, right? I think that what I've seen at play is that they have a team that they can rely on, but they won't rely on them. So if a team makes a mistake, they are quick to fix it rather than give them the opportunity to do that. Rather than develop them as leaders, right? They rather go and save the day. If there is an emergency or if their boss requests something, they immediately say yes without even checking if this is under scope, if this is aligned with their duties, if they have the capacity to do it. They're on autopilot. And that's why we end up overextended, because we don't, like, by we, it's eldest daughter programming. They don't stop and think, stop and pause, stop and have discernment. They absolutely go, it's like,
Autopilot?
no, autopilot, but like a trigger. It's a trigger
Mm-hmm.
response from the programming. So they keep saying yes, people pleasing. You'll see a lot of people pleasing with colleagues as well.
Mm-hmm.
When it comes to, like, is it either collaboration or, Miryam, I can't do this. Can you take that on? At this point, what have you done to solve it? But they don't ask questions. They just say yes. And they keep taking on and on and on to the point that their body's feeling the pain. But because we've been conditioned to just keep it pushing, what I've seen in eldest daughters is the dissociation from their bodies. And so when they finally have the time to rest, they don't rest. They collapse. So it's burnout and collapse, burnout and collapse. There is no restoration. There is no recalibration. There is none of that.
Yeah. Or maybe when they do rest, their nervous system freaks out because they've never done that before.
It's the guilt. It's the guilt of wanting to do something all the time. Because if, let's go back to the stories, the narratives playing in their heads is, you're lazy. Our culture has been so resilient. Why can't you endure more? Why can't you do more? Why can't you be productive?
Yeah. Like Like our parents came to this country with nothing and you're complaining about working too much.
And that's part of cultural conditioning as well.
Mhm.
It's the narratives of sacrifice,
Mhm.
right? They sacrifice so much for us. So like, why should we be complaining? This is nothing compared to, but it's not a comparison game. Like,
Mhm.
they're both valid. Like, both things can be true. Yeah.
Yeah. One of the things that you touched on is they don't pause. And that is one of the things that for me, I have really used as a strategy or just like a tool for me. It's like pausing because like eldest daughter here, first gen child of immigrants, all of that jazz. So it definitely fit into a lot of those things early on in my life. And rest was never modeled. And my mom was a single parent, worked multiple jobs to take care of me and my three sisters. I always saw that hustle. And I mean, I started working at 13 and have had jobs ever since. So I always operated on the go, 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 go. And like for me, college, I experienced my first like panic attack and developed anxiety because I was like doing so much in my youth that like ever since I started working. And then on top of that, I was extracurriculars. I was like all about being college bound. So I took all the extra courses, college courses since high school, like every single year from freshman year was taking college courses. So I was doing so much. And when I finally got to college, and I mean, at the time I still had a part time job, but my life was different. Like all I had was school and part time job versus when I was in school, like I had all these things and all of these accolades and extra things. Part of it was like, I need to stand out. I need to prove that I am worthy of these colleges acceptance and scholarships. So when I got there, I was like, okay, I can relax now. I'm here. I made it. And my body freaked out. Or, I mean, I didn't know at the time that that's what it was.
Because there
When,
wasn't a next step. You weren't
yeah,
working towards something. It was like,
yes,
chill.
yeah. Like, and I know I've shared the story, but it was like day before Thanksgiving. Was feeling like tingling, palpitations. I thought I was dying. And I call 911. And then I'm like, I'm having a seizure, I think. And they're like, ma'am, if you were having a seizure, you would not be able to be on the phone with us right now. And so, they take me to the ER and they do the EKGs and they're like, oh, you're having a panic attack. And then I hadn't been sleeping. So then they prescribed me Ambien, which is like, I am 18 years old and they're giving me Ambien that's very strong and I'm sensitive as it is to medication. So now I'm hallucinated for days. So I had to stop taking
Oh.
that. So then I'm taking NyQuil so I can sleep because like I couldn't sleep at all. And then I was having the anxiety. But now going back, it's like I realized that it was because I was operating on like survival and go, go, go. And like you said, I didn't have a next step. It's like now I'm in college. And yes, my plan is to finish college, go to law school. But I wasn't like on a day to day working towards like those goals, big goals that I had my whole life. And then now, like taking it easy, resting was foreign to me. I feel like that is so common in our culture and women that do have this identity is that you were never modeled rest or like you never had the time, not just rest, but like even the pause. I mean, a pause can take a few seconds, even like taking that moment. So those are two things. One is rest, physical rest, but also like giving yourself that few seconds to think about, do I say yes to this thing? Or do
Mhm.
I do this thing? Or why am I doing this thing? Or why am I agreeing to this? It's like never taking that moment to think whether or not you should do the thing that you're going to do. I feel like that's like a common pattern that I've seen, and that at least like for me, that it was so important for me to learn that I can pause and really assess like, do I want to say yes to this thing? Do I want to say no to this thing? Not just work related, but everything that you're just used to like automatically agreeing to or saying yes to.
Mhm.
And then, like, giving myself that opportunity and that choice to see if that's, like, the best thing for me. And then second, the physical rest of not knowing how to do it and then feeling guilty when you do because you kept hearing all your life, like, "No seas floja, no seas huevona, levántate," like, "Go clean something."
You mentioned something. You said the choice. And a lot of the eldest daughters that I work with, they truly don't think they have a choice. It's either or. It's like zero-sum capitalism. But they have a choice, because what if you could lead your community, be a leader in your organization, expand your income, and have joy, have more capacity, have more time for the things that you want to do in your life, have better relationship with your children, with your spouse, with your friends, have an actual life. Because I don't believe in work-life balance. It's never a balance. It's always like this. It's always like this. But a choice is you get to choose what you prioritize, because you're no longer on autopilot. And a lot of women don't have that, because their default is hyperarousal. And they just push, because not pushing, like you said, would finally give them a window for them to feel. And a lot of eldest daughters, women of color,
Scary.
that grew up fast, they run away from that feeling, but it is going to knock on your door one way or another, whether you're 29, 35, 40. The eldest daughter I've coached with, she was 54, 55. Imagine 55
Yeah.
running with that programming. She finally got to take a sabbatical, a full month sabbatical after 3 years of taking no time off. And that was some strategic planning for her to not self-sabotage. But it's the choice. It's the choice in allowing yourself to feel. And feelings are visitors. They're visitors. They come and go. Pain is temporary. Suffering is a decision. I feel like I've told you this before.
Yes. No, I love that. And I would want you to touch a little bit more for, those that are not like maybe in touch with their feelings. And I know that's, a huge thing in your practice and like how you help is the like emotional freedom. Is that what you call it? Or
Emotional capacity.
yeah. Yeah. So if you want to touch a little bit on that, especially like on the eldest daughter, like how those emotions or like you touched on, I know for me, feelings used to freak me out and make me uncomfortable. Like I never liked being by myself. I was always like, but I'm an extrovert, so I need to be around people. So that's what I thought. I'm an extrovert. I need to be around people. And I always saw opportunities to be with people because being by myself was uncomfortable. Or maybe if somebody was crying, it would make me uncomfortable. Why? I don't know what to do. Do I just hug them? I don't know. Or just like things like that. I mean, I'm a different person now,
Yes.
but it was just like I think a lot of that for me was there were things I needed to like heal in myself and be comfortable with like emotions and comfortable with feeling things instead of like always trying to run away from them. Because before I was always doing something, I didn't have time to think about feelings. And then when you have that moment of being alone with your thoughts and your feelings and emotions, and then they scare you because you're not used to having that time to think or that time to feel. And
You're not used to having a safe space to feel and feel safe in that moment. Because when was the last time that happened? Like, can you recall a time in your childhood where when feeling scared was okay, when feeling angry was okay, when feeling sad was okay? Or they told you like, don't cry, mija. Or like, don't be angry, or don't use that tone with me, like, or I'll give you something to cry about. So there was never a safe space for us to feel those emotions. And like I said, emotions are data, but that's all they are. They're data. And once we receive them as data, we can feel them. They go away. And then okay, what made me sad? What made me feel this anger? Where is the guilt coming from? But because eldest daughters have been, and strong women, I'm going to say strong women, have been conditioned to not feel because it's not safe to feel. They just keep compressing that as a spring. So you have no capacity to handle someone else's tears. You have no capacity to handle the humanity in others. I'm not saying there's no empathy, but you have little to no capacity until someone really small triggers, and then the spring goes out and it can hit someone in the eye and the face, hurt someone, because you had no capacity. And so when we talk about, when I talk about restoration, it's more than physical. It's not getting your nails done, though it's nice, or going to
yeah.
the spa or going for a drive. giving yourself time to slow down, to take care of your mind, of your body, everything. There's like 7 types of rest, actually. But it's not just about the physical things, or it doesn't have to cost you money either. But it's a journey, and it's a process of being with yourself and building that emotional capacity. Because, and I wish I had a prop to show you. I have this talk, one of my keynotes is called "The Revolution Will Be Rested." And in that talk, strong women give so much. And you probably heard, we can't give from an empty cup. Right? And you've heard that it needs to overflow to give. And yes, that's right. But let's say I have a cup right here. I have a cup right here. And let's say that this is half a cup, right? And your emotional capacity is like depleting and depleting and depleting and depleting. Maybe it just gets over here. But you want to keep giving. But when you have no emotional capacity and you just keep repressing the emotions and you're not able to feel, then let's add some color dye, some anger in there, some guilt in there, some shame in there, some sadness in there. All of a sudden, you're going to see this water turn blue or whatever color you
Yeah.
give it. And you're giving that. The water that you're giving is no longer potable. So you think that you're giving out of love, but you're not replenishing, and you're giving something that is not potable, that is not good for others. That's what happens.
Yeah.
We don't restore, when we don't rebuild that emotional capacity. And emotional capacity, it's foundational in leadership, because you're developing others. Leadership is about people.
Yeah.
Managing is about tasks, but leadership is about people.
That's like a great transition. How are these patterns impacting how they're showing up as leaders, or how they are? Because if you are operating from the I'm a team player, I'm helping people, I'm indispensable because I'm always doing and I could do everything and I do it better than people, or I'm going to handle it because I'm going to do it better than, Sally. So I'm just going to take care of it. And like, how is that impacting their abilities to be leaders, not just from their boss's perspective, with they're like, oh, they're the doers, not the leaders, but just like from their own perspective as well. Like, how is that impacting how others see them as leaders, or quality leaders, or how they see themselves as leaders?
If they're the doers, they have no capacity to do anything else. They are so entangled into the tasks, or competing with Sally because they can do it better than Sally, or being indispensable. That means you're the only one that can do the work. You're needed, not valued, because you can't even take a day off because you're needed. You're the only one that can do it. So you're not developing anybody else. And the role of a leader is to develop others. So at one point, everything can run without you. That is the role of a leader. They're overextended. What else did we say? Oh, they indispensable. They act like a machine. But even machines need recalibration. Even machines need restoration. And when you're stuck doing all of the things, you have no time for discernment. You have no time for decision making. You're reactive rather than responsive. So one thing that I would say eldest daughters and strong women need to stop doing is being firefighters, putting out every single fires that they didn't even start. And not because people ask them. Sometimes, like, strong women are such good problem solving that they just put fires out. They don't even belong to them. And there's no room for growth there. There's no time. There's no capacity to get promoted. There's no time. There's no capacity to expand your income. There's no time. There's no capacity to be in spaces where you can share your thought leadership and build the network and build the accolades, because you're stuck doing everyone else's job over responsibility. That's how it shows up.
Yeah. And then, like you said, you are the doer. So why are they going to promote you? Or why they're, so it's not just impacting like the types of roles you're getting, or the, role you're playing in your team, but it's impacting your ability to grow in your career. And let's talk about like how this is also impacting your money. How does this have a direct cost to their finances?
They didn't. This may be controversial. Eldest daughters didn't choose their career. Their programming did it for them. So because they're constantly the helper, they are constantly the one that needs to carry everyone, carry their community, do something because there was no one doing it. I'm not saying that this is like, it's not a career that you shouldn't do, but it's not a sovereign decision. It's a decision made out of programming. That's what we end up with: a lot of social workers, a lot of therapists, a lot of people in healthcare, HR, a nonprofit that are eldest daughters because they put in the work. They're the problem solver. They want to represent their community because nobody else was there to help. So they are coming in to help. And they end up in roles that have a cap in income, an income cap. Or they end up in positions where they're doing it all and they can't grow anymore because they care so much about others, their team, their organization, the community. So leaving sometimes feels foreign. It feels uneasy. And that's
Or
when the
even
guilt starts.
guilty. Yeah, I was like, you feel guilty.
And that's when the guilt starts. Because you don't want to let anyone down. You don't want to let... My grandparents have passed. And I hear a lot of elders are like, what would my grandma say? What would my ancestors say? Honestly, I'm my ancestors' dream in motion. They fought so hard for me to have a better life. And yes, I can bring others with me, but I can't bring them when I can't even move forward. The point is to move forward and then bring them.
Yeah,
but if
you
I
can't.
have no strength, no capacity to do that, we're all going to be stuck together.
Yeah, it's like you're being dragged by that extra dead weight and like your movements are minuscule because versus like you said, I have the strength to move myself forward and then I can bring people versus like you're trying to move but like not really making any progress because maybe you're even taking some steps back.
And that's okay sometimes. Like, it's totally okay sometimes. But the goal is to keep moving forward from sovereign decisions.
So what about like financially? Do you feel that the programming impacts whether or not they negotiate or what kind of roles they accept, or does it keep them underpaid?
One of the main problems that strong women eldest daughters have with this programming is receiving. They cannot receive. They immediately deflect, or they feel like they have to give something in return. Because if they don't do something to earn it, they're not worthy of it. So in negotiations, they'll accept the first thing that's offered because I should be so grateful. Like,
That you're even offering me this.
yeah, right? And absolutely, in roles, they have to feel like there's a little bit of perfectionism there, right? They feel like they have to be 100% qualified for something to even apply. There's the imposter syndrome because for so long they've been searching for belonging, and they keep like performing and doing to fit in and belong. And so if they don't have everything ready, if they're not 100% competent, check all the boxes, then they don't belong. That is not even for them. So the main relationship that needs to shift is the receiving, the relationship to receiving, so they can receive the income. When they get a compliment from someone, they immediately deflect like,
Yeah.
but you are, yes, and just receive it.
And I had to learn that as well. And I practice it. And now when I hear another, eldest daughter, you're so amazing or you did something great. And they're like, oh, really? Or like, yeah, you're doing great too. And I'm like, girl, just accept it. Say thank you. I know, right?
Yes. So in order for them to expand their income, first, they need to transform their relationship to receiving, shift guilt to gratitude. But gratitude actually from like, we're transforming the guilt and the sacrifice narratives because that's a lot where the guilt comes from in families and culture. So transform that into gratitude so you can you're not only walking into a room, into a negotiation, into any of those leadership rooms by yourself. You're walking with your parents. You're walking with your ancestors. You're walking with the community that you represent. So it's like everybody there with you. So when you negotiate, you're not just negotiating for you. You're negotiating for what you're trying to accomplish, where you want to move forward, for all of the experience and all of the sacrifices that your parents made and all of the efforts. So yes, I'm going to negotiate because it's not just me. And no, we're dismantling that. Let's just be grateful for how little I can get.
No.
Yeah.
No, I love that.
And then the overextension, like you mentioned it too, is doing the 3 people's worth of work and not advocating for yourself, the self-advocacy. But how would you advocate for yourself when you operating system says that you need to do and perform to prove your worth? You're always looking for something else to do, to prove that you belong, to prove that you deserve it. There's little celebration there. But once you know what you're worth, once you know how capable, how competent, once you stop gaslighting yourself, then you can start advocating, then you can start negotiating, then you can start saying no to things that do not overextend your capacity, to things that, get you paid.
Yeah. And I know that a lot of these practical strategies can be helpful, but as we know, especially as coaches, and you do a lot of rewiring work or really getting to the root of things. Now that we've, named the pattern and everything is costing you, and here are some strategies that you can do to get paid your worth, to not overextend and to be a leader. What does it actually look like? And I know that this is your bread and butter and what you work with your clients. What does that entail? What does it look like to go through that process, or what is needed for you to be on that other side?
So it's about expanding your window of tolerance. And that I talk about small ripples a lot. You can't change 180 because people get so scared that they default, or they self-sabotage, and they default to their old patterns. So it's a process. It's a process. And the difference with coaching is that I am walking with my client. If they have a negotiation, if they have a conversation, if they have a conflict that they need to solve, I am there with them. And everyone looks a little bit different based on their own experiences and their own limiting narratives, right? But at the foundation, we focus on depersonalizing whatever's happening. So, for example, we mentioned a lot of guilt. Guilt is a core emotion, a core feeling for eldest daughters and strong women. So to whatever is happening, and the guilt can feel overwhelming. And this is why the pause is important. We have to get to a place where we can actually pause, even for a few seconds. And eldest daughters and strong women are extremely self-aware. They've listened to the podcast, they read the books, they've read the articles and everything, but they hoard a lot of knowledge, but they don't implement. That's where I come in. So the implementation phase, we go from, actually getting your nervous system safe. So parasympathetic nervous system, and then state, and then we depersonalize. If it's guilt, where is this guilt coming from? I'm a master coach in neuro-linguistic programming, and there's this technique, one of the techniques, that is called parts integration. I'm not going to talk about the technique as a whole, but there is one part of the technique that we ask the client, who does this sound like? Whose voice is this? Because a lot of times the guilt is not you. It's a voice from your culture, from your mother, from someone that taught you at a certain point in time that this wasn't okay, that this wasn't safe. And so then we start unraveling. The depersonalization comes first. And then the guilt is going to overwhelm. So then we dive into nervous system regulation. I do some somatic work within my container, because, as I explained before, a lot of eldest daughter and strong women have dissociated from their bodies. So they push through the pain, they push through everything. So this is the opportunity to reconnect it to your body and do some somatic stuff, whether that's dancing, singing, grounding. Journaling works a lot for me. Because I am a recovering overthinker, let's just say that. And so grounding, coming back to the present. And then we can start connecting to our bodies to actually make sound decisions. The brain is the organ that functions the most in the body. It spends the most energy. So when you are trapped in any of these emotions, especially guilt or shame, and then the overthinking, and then the amygdala triggers, and then you go on autopilot, then you're already consuming more energy. You're running on cortisol and adrenaline. So we regulate so we can make decisions. Sometimes the client will really get stuck in a particular thing. And that's when we do what is called timeline therapy. It's an exercise, and I guide them through that, where we go and access a memory and we transform that memory. It's usually tied to the emotion that you're experiencing at a given time. So if it's guilt, we go to, it's a little woo, but it's neuroscience backed, to a time when you learned this. And then we unlocked not what happened, but we unlocked whatever it is that you were feeling at that given time. Because again, they didn't have the chance, the opportunity to feel at that given time. So those emotions are being replayed in the now. We transform that to resources, and then by we is I guide them. They unlock, they transform to resources that work for them in the now. And then we use those resources to move forward with the decision or whatever scenario is at play. So it's a lot of emotional capacity work, decision making, and nervous system regulation, leadership.
Yeah. And for those that might think that this is like, oh my God, that sounds like a lot. Like, I don't
It's
know if I want to go
quick.
through that. If you are not comfortable with your feelings and
Mhm.
emotions and going to those places, you're like, I don't want to go to a place that I feel uncomfortable or unsafe or taking me back to a situation. Like, how would you help them with that thought process? Not convincing them, but just like reassuring them that, like, yes, this work might sound like, oh, it's a lot of heavy stuff. So maybe I don't want to do it. But like, what's on the other side, or how does that change their life so that they're like, oh my God, that's totally worth it?
On the other side, it's the goal that they want to accomplish. That is truly what's on the other side. Like I said again, pain is temporary, suffering is a decision. And at the end of the day, if you're here right now in front of me, in a coaching container, it's because you are fed up with how things have been going. You have tried everything and it hasn't worked. So that is the definition of insanity, right? So we are doing something different to make it work, because you have been running from these emotions for so long, but they have been running every decision you have made in different areas of your life. So how about we rip the Band-Aid with a guy that knows what she's doing, and then we transform that so they're no longer there. We literally grab them. They
Yeah.
literally transform that, grab their resources, apply them to the now, and then when we test, that guilt or whatever emotion was trapped there is no longer there. That is the beautiful thing about my coaching container. And I speak from experience. It is the main reason why I became a coach, because it transformed my life. It transformed my life. And when I felt that, I was like, I didn't know that this was possible. I didn't have to carry that guilt, that I didn't have to carry that shame. And guilt for me was a little bit tuned up, because I got kicked out of college at the age of 18, just 3 years after my parents immigrated to this country. Imagine the amount of guilt that I carry. My parents came to this country to give us better opportunities, and here I am getting kicked out of college. I felt so inadequate. It was because of my English. And then I find out I had ADHD. But the guilt that had been running my life for so long just went away. And this is why I'm able to make decisions without carrying that, because it's no longer there. Yes, of course, I consider them. Of course, I am empathetic, but I'm not putting fires out that I didn't create. And I'm not just talking about family. I'm talking about
Yeah.
over.
Yeah.
Right?
Like,
So,
that's not for me to carry. That's not for me to solve. That's not for me to handle.
yes. And then at the, on the other side is the goal that you want to accomplish, is what you came to this container for. You've been doing all of these things by yourself. And one thing about eldest daughters, because they don't like receiving, they don't like to ask for help. It feels foreign to them. But at some point in your life, you're going to realize that asking for help is the best decision, the best act of self-love that you can do for yourself. Because just like we experience trauma in community, we heal in community. And it's important to have someone, through that process. But that's what I would tell them. Like, do we want to get to the goal? Because I can guarantee you it's there.
Yes, I love it. Yeah, like, so what's one thing that you can have listeners who are eldest daughters and having this pattern, like, how can they start building their careers where they're valued and not just helpful? Like, what's one thing that they can take away from today?
Stop being firefighters. Stop being firefighters. Firefighters just put out anyone's fire. Stop being first responders. Just respond. Pause. Respond. So you have a chance for that stimulus that says that you're in danger to get to your prefrontal cortex and actually make a decision out of sovereignty rather than the pattern rather than survival mode. You were born into a leadership position out of survival. Now we're moving into a leadership position out of sovereignty. That's the shift.
I love it. Thank you so much. And how can, others find you and how can they work with you?
Yes. So I am on LinkedIn, TikTok, and Instagram as Miryam Valdrom. I am launching a podcast next year as well. And then if you go to my website or any one of my social media profiles, I challenge you to take the Inner Pionera quiz to see what kind of pionera are you. My Inner Pionera is my signature offer, and it is the pionera, the pioneer that lives in you. So some of us have been first in many areas of our life. So find out which one are you and tune in once Inner Pionera launches.
Great. Thank you so much for all of this knowledge and all your expertise and sharing how they can be able to go past this eldest daughter programming and be able to really take control of their careers and lives. Thank you so
Thank you for
much.
having me, and thank you for the work you're doing. I'm really excited for more of these episodes and to get so much value from this podcast.
Thank you. I hope you got exactly what you needed from this episode and that at least one thing clicked. One shift, one conversation, one thing you could actually try this week. And if you're listening and thinking, okay, but how do I apply this to my job, my boss, my situation? That's where I come in. I work one-on-one with ambitious women of color who want to grow in their career, get promoted, negotiate more money, or make the next move without burning themselves out or losing their peace. We get clear on the strategy, work through what's really getting in the way, and build the success that actually fits your life. If this episode resonated and you want support, you can find me at jessicalynn-wellness.com or DM me on Instagram at jessicalynn-wellness. We'll chat about how I can help you thrive in your career and in your whole life. And if you know another ambitious woman of color who needs the conversation, share this episode with her. If you loved this episode or the podcast, leaving a quick rating or review helps more women find this space, and I appreciate it more than you know. Make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss what's coming next. You don't have to choose between the career and the life. You get to have both, and we're building that together. I'll see you next week. Vámonos.